I'm Aaron Sagers, and this is Talking Strange.
A found footage horror film about Bigfoot that's also a mockumentary with some comedic elements about making a found footage horror film about Bigfoot. But then behind the scenes, there's supernatural and sinister forces that are unfolding around the crew. And meanwhile, a documentary team is filming the entire production and capturing it all. That's what you get, that bundle of paranormal weirdness with found footage, the making of the Patterson Project. Hey there, spooky nerds. Aaron here. And yeah, I don't almost want to tell you about my guests in this film, but I kind of have to. That's sort of the deal when you're doing introductions for an interview. But Found Footage is a mockumentary horror film about a budding filmmaker's attempt to produce his first feature, which is a found footage movie about Bigfoot. And it's through the eyes of this French documentary crew that the story unfolds. They follow this band of misfit filmmakers as they struggle to keep the production afloat on this shoestring budget. All the while, mysterious and sinister occurrences begin to unfold behind the scenes, blurring the lines between movie magic and real life. And the shoot days get longer and also scarier. And the filmmakers learn that they've stepped into a very real and terrifying found footage film of their own. Found Footage, the making of the Patterson Project, is directed by Max Tzannes, who also is a writer on the film with Jacob Souza, and David San Miguel is editing and behind the cinematography for the film. And it is produced by Tyler Friesen with Radio Silence. And of course, you know Radio Silence as the filmmaking group, the collective behind Ready or Not, Scream, Scream 6, and Abigail. Really loved Abigail and Ready or Not in particular. And it's out in theaters on June 20th and digitally on June 24th. And I got a chance to talk with Max and David and Jacob about this flick and the ratio between horror and comedy and how it all fits together with this. I enjoyed found footage because I didn't know what I was stepping into. And at times I was like, all right, comedic moment. Oh, well, actually, scary moment. So let's get to it. We're talking to Max Tzannes, Jacob Souza, David San Miguel, the filmmakers behind found footage, the making of the Patterson Project.
Hi, I'm Jacob Souza.
Max Tzannes.
David San Miguel.
First off, guys, I want to talk about found footage, but I don't want to talk about found footage because this is a movie that I feel like going in as fresh without knowing anything just really enhances the experience, and yet that's kind of counter to doing publicity. So give me some advice here because I want to talk about this film without talking about the film. How have you been navigating this?
There's some broad terms you can use, Mockumentary comes into play. I think
Yeah.
it certainly starts as a mockumentary. I think we can agree on that, Aaron, right?
Mm-hmm.
That this is true. It riffs a lot on our previous experience working on film sets. So the idea itself is basically trying to dramatize what we've experienced on set, which is often when you are, in the heat of the moment and you're working with very little money, it can feel like an evil entity is personally trying to terrorize your set and make it as chaotic as possible. So how's that for vague? What do you think? Somewhere.
That's pretty good. I mean, there's the website as well that goes into a little bit more detail than that, but and we'll get to that. But yeah, okay. So filmmaking, demons, Bigfoot. There's a lot of things happening here. Just to kind of to start with that, what was your kind of interest in the worlds of strange, unusual, paranormal, supernatural going into this for each of you?
Well, let's start with the Bigfoot expert, Jacob, on my right
Well,
here.
Bigfoot's just like the most, interesting creature. We all want to believe he's real. No, I think Bigfoot's just cool. We were talking early in the process like what it could be, and we were throwing around every idea: ghost, alien, Bigfoot, and like Bigfoot just seemed like for me. I was like, I want to be in the woods. Like that would be a cool way to shoot this movie. And it would look nice because we're in the trees, and it would be fun to film that.
The cinematographer, in case
Right.
you, yeah, cinematographer,
Uh,
editor over here. Yeah.
So my it initially started as like I want to be in the forest, and so that made sense. And then as we talked about it more, it felt more like it could be made fun of pretty easily. So that became the route we went.
Also, I think that because the movie has kind of a few layers to it, the monster, let's just to be totally frank, it's about people making a movie, right? So, and inside of that movie that they're making, there's a monster. And having a monster in that like meta layer of movie, like the thing that they're actually making that is very recognizable, like Bigfoot, I do think helps to ground people in like, okay, cool. This is about a bunch of goofy people making a found footage movie about Bigfoot. And I think you can kind of accept that early. And then if we want to play maybe with that concept more later, it gives us more. I think that we don't have to explain too much about what the actual movie is that they're making, just because there have been a number of Bigfoot found footage movies. So that are of varying quality, and I think that for me personally, as someone who's less into the cryptids, I would say the least cryptid forward of the three of us, I find Bigfoot very funny. I think he's a very funny. Of all the cryptids, he's the funniest to me. Obviously, I'd be terrified if I ever actually saw a Bigfoot, but that as someone who comes from more of a comedy background, I thought that was ripe for some humor. And as someone who's been in the suit many times during the promotion, I'll turn over to David.
Well, also, I was just gonna say it's a nice. I have been in that suit. It's a great fit. He's right
I
here.
got the suit right here.
The whole thing is below the camera here. Um, but yeah, I think it's easily recognizable to like a callback to kind of Blair Witch. Like one of the all-time greatest found footage films of all time. Just like that wood setting, it just felt kind of right. Like people will recognize this as like, I get it, it's found footage. And then what goes better in the forest than a Bigfoot? Um, and that's my input there.
The the first thing that caught me was, and I again, like I just love the process of being surprised when you're watching a film, and I truly was, because I read the notes and everything, but still doesn't really prepare you for what you're about to watch. And then right up top in the name, we have the found footage making of the Patterson Project. So you're calling out one of the most well-known pieces of film of all time. I mean, the Patterson Gimlin footage is iconic. What was that, like something that you guys, I guess, lived with a little bit as? I mean, were you watching Unsolved Mysteries as kids? Were you were you engaging with any of that stuff? And you're like, okay, that's something that at some point I would like to make use of, I guess.
Sure. I mean, absolutely. I think for me, when I was a kid, I saw that footage and I was convinced like this is the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life, you know.
Mhm.
My dad for sure had an influence on me there because he wants to believe it's real as well. And so yeah, I think that footage is like undeniably interesting. Like you can't not look at it and be like, well, that looks real. It could be a costume, could be an actual creature, or it could be a bear. I don't know, but it definitely looks a lot better than the costumes that were coming out at the time. For that was always the thing that interested me. I was like, there were like, wasn't Planet of the Apes like shooting a movie, and you see like at the same time those costumes don't look nearly as good as that costume. So who's the costume designer on that suit? Because I want to talk to them.
Yeah. It's well, yeah, I know that's a perhaps side conversation. We could get into that as far as the legitimacy or not of Patterson, but definitely this very well known piece of film. What when you're writing this, and I guess Max and David on this, what do you view? You kind of mentioned this is also sort of leaning into your own experiences in the industry. So if you're gonna write, writ large, what is the overlap between movies about the industry, found footage horror, and also comedy? Because it seems like there's some insane Venn diagram here that you guys are operating within. This sits right in the middle. So what do you see as the overlaps, the similarities between these genre?
I think that I'm a huge fan of Christopher Guest to begin with, so it's like I think that and when I'm on set, the things I feel like I most connect to are movies like Waiting for Guffman. That's how it feels when you're making indie film. It just feels like you have a lot of people who are really passionate, doing their best, and we're gonna take the risk, knowing full well that we could get shut down right in the middle of filming our first scene of the day. So I that was like that heartbeat meant a lot to me, I guess. And also I found very funny. But then I think for me, for the found footage aspect, if you think about the setup of a mockumentary, and it's not like this is the first movie that I think that has more of a mockumentary setup that becomes found footage, but what was very important to me was that if there were no scares in the movie at all, I did want the movie to be very funny and surprising. So I think that at the heart of everything, even some of the scares that do happen for me, I do think are joke payoffs to jokes that are planted in the first act or in the second act. And that was like, I guess at the middle of that Venn diagram, it was always that was a driving force for me. Is like it's riffing on the specific experience that we know a lot about. That, by the way, isn't probably just specific to filmmaking. It's anytime you do a venture, any business you're in. If you're making it, if you're in a small business trying to make, I mean, Silicon Valley is a great show that does this, right? So it's like if you are just trying to go from 0 to 1 on anything, there's this kind of chaotic, creative excitement, pratfall nature to it that I love, and I think the movie is specifically from the filmmaking sense about that. But then on the flip side, you have the horror of that too. So because a kid, some terrible things can truly go awry
Yeah.
on a set or whenever you're trying to do something that you're really passionate about, you care a lot about for very little money.
Hmm. David, you want to add to that? Anything?
That was a great answer. I think we watched the movie again recently, and I think I was more aware than ever on this most recent watch, how we kind of have like it's a similar joke every time, but with just a totally different scenario, but like kind of the same idea that something terrible happens while you're trying to keep the production on the track. Something tries to stop you, and in some cases it actually is like a demon or some kind of evil something is trying to stop you, and you're so like tunnel vision to get the thing done that you like there's no possible way uh it's something evil. This is just a natural thing that happens. How can we fix it and move forward? Because this is just like, it's just problem after problem. And that just, there's so much comedy in that. And then that's how like the diagram, the horror comes in, is that in some cases it is actually something sinister that is trying to stop you, not just the production gods like
Yeah.
trying to damn your
Yeah.
project.
It's also like in horror movies, I'm sure there's always that moment in a horror movie where a character makes a decision that you would be like, I wouldn't do that in that situation. I wouldn't go down the hallway. I wouldn't go in the closet. Like I'd probably call something. I'd do a different thing. In this movie, because I've been on set in those situations, and if something truly nefarious was going on, I would probably chalk it up to just the chaos of being on set. So that was like that kind of tied the horror with the comedy
Totally.
for me as a writer, and then
Yeah.
as a viewer now.
Yeah, and I think what's kind of interesting is with, found footage horror, a lot of times they know that they're stepping into some sort of, we're looking for the Blair Witch. We're looking, I'm thinking like Willow Creek. We're looking for Sasquatch. So they know that there's a monster or possibly a monster out there. They're looking for a legend or a cryptid. It kind of makes it smacks of reality that, yeah, when you're on a film set, you're putting together a project, you have limited money, very limited time. You are just hyper focused on getting the job done. So when the horror is unfolding around you and you never set out to be in the horror movie, you're going to miss those cues. So
Yeah.
that feels real as I was watching this, which I appreciate. Uh, there's also, I think you're right, Max, that anyone that's worked on any project or tried to raise money or whatever, there's just those hurdles that you encounter. But there's something special in a way about working in film and TV and everything, the cringy moments of dealing with casting directors and raising money and perhaps not always being authentic. What are some things that you pulled from real life in those scenarios? Have you had encounters with casting Danielle Radcliffe, or what are those? What's the behind the scenes stories that informed those cringy
Yeah.
industry moments?
Well, to be totally fair to the people that, so this is actually the second movie we've made. We made our first movie is called Et 2. It's actually coming out next month, if you can believe it. That stars Blue Diamond Phillips, Malcolm McDowell. It was our first movie. We're really proud of it. And it was also really hard to make, right? We made it at the peak of COVID. It was just a crazy time. I mean, I lost 20 pounds making that movie. It was like one of those sorts of experiences. And to be totally fair to everyone, that there were a lot of people I love in that production, and two of them are next to me right now. So we're making mostly fun of ourselves, the chase characters, stuff like that. As far as like casting directors go and financiers, I wouldn't say we specifically had those interactions on that specific movie. Or in our previous short films, but it's not hard to imagine. It's like a few steps away that it's like, we didn't miscast an actor, but we've had conversations that are just as ridiculous. We're like, they're probably trying to sell us, one Radcliffe for another Radcliffe, right? So it is, sir, we never kind of made a joke that we didn't think was actually plausibly could have happened to us, either on our previous movie or in a short film that we made in the past.
Hmm. Okay, so then Et 2 actually stars Lou Diamond Phillips and not like Lou Diamond Philippe.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. And he's fantastic in it, by the way. So
Yeah.
that was, yeah. By the way, I think that Radcliffe you're talking about is pretty great in the movie within the movie as well. So
It
even though,
is it's great, yeah.
yeah,
The again, the kind of the crossover between these different genre, this could so easily become comedy and less horror. Did you have this mental kind of percentage that you were working with? Like, okay, we're a 20% or horror or a comedy, and then a 70% horror. Or moments as you're filming this where you're like, all right, I feel like we're dipping too much back into the comedy and less into the horror.
so hard. It's like really hard to. It's hard to know. I think a lot of like how much is it horror, how much is it comedy is playing the results often. Like once you finally cut the movie together, you kind of see like, oh, this is playing more serious than I thought it was or not. I think for me as the director, I have that comedy background, so I kind of need, even when it's scary, for me to see that there's something ironic that's going on, because if it's only just scary and nothing else, it better be really damn scary, right? And especially if you set out with this horror comedy setup, right? So I think that I always have that in the back of my mind. But also we're moving so fast. I mean, a lot of cases we had one or two takes, So it's like you kind of have to just roll with the punches. And if they're giving you more of a serious tone for a scene, there's one scene, for example, at the end where two characters confront each other. I'm not sure if you remember it, but they basically are two of our lead characters confront each other after one feels horribly betrayed by the other. And in the scene, we wrote it together as them basically doing the classic, like, I'll kill you. And then they get into
Yeah,
a
yeah.
fight on very, mockumentary. Let's have some fun. And the actors, I'll save this. No spoiler here, but the actors came up with something else. And it plays very different in the movie than I ever would have imagined. But that's part of the beauty of having a movie that has so much improvisation, taking from This Is Spinal Tap and those sorts of Christopher Guest movies that inspired it. That's where I'm at. What do you guys think as far as the horror comedy balance?
Well, I know that during the writing process, because
Yeah.
Max did grow up, he'll admit it, didn't love horror.
I was
Big
terrified.
old scaredy cat.
A scaredy cat.
And I couldn't get enough of it once I was allowed to. Once I got out of my good Christian home, I absorbed as much as I could. So when we were writing it, it was nice to balance each other out. If it was like, hey, we're like starting to go a little scary, but like it felt like we're kind of reining back. I was like, let's actually like go a little further with it. Maybe we can push it a little bit more. And I know Jake.
I was always advocating is to hold longer on shots, and
Yeah.
it was a back and forth of like, well, is this a funny scene or is this a horror scene? But I think for me in my head it was always like there's like a 70-30 split.
Yeah.
70% comedy, 30% horror.
I think that's the cool thing about working in a film like collective is what we end up with is often like the middle of all of our it is a consensus between the three of us. So it is like a shared vision, which is cool. I think I know the movie would look different if each individual one of us like had made it on our own, but together I feel like we come up with the version that we all like the best, which is cool.
Totally. And on top of that, the
Oh,
cast and crew as well for this specific project, just like it was such a group effort. Everyone was so gung-ho for this idea, so passionate to be a part of it. I think all of their ideas too shine through in the final product.
What were walk me through some of the unique challenges that you're facing here, especially like as you said, second movie that you're working on together. This you're for instance, you have and again trying not to spoil, but you have a Bigfoot suit for the Patterson Project, the film within the film that is being made. And you are going into the production, the creation of that suit. So you want that to look a certain way for that film with a budget that has 30K or whatever behind it. And then you're also working on props and set decos on something that feels more real to the horror element. So you're dealing with different levels of reality there. Talk about some of those challenges of like, okay, we don't want this to look too good. This now needs to look really good. And where are we going to land on these? And I'm talking around it, but I feel like you know where I'm going here. I
mean,
hope.
oh yeah, totally. I mean, we had three cameras rolling for a lot of scenes, right? So there's the two dock cameras rolling, and then there's an actor literally holding the found footage movie camera within the movie. So it was a lot of trust, I think, that we had to put out. You had to put out as a cinematographer. I think this is the thing that we were like wrestling with the most.
So yeah, the whole way, from the very like conception of the idea, it was always like a challenge to wrap your head around, okay, this needs to look like a documentary first and foremost, and it cannot look too much like a movie. But it needs to be watchable and it needs to be presented as like a prestigious documentary. So like it was always this balance of like making it feel a little unpolished in the scenes and a little gritty, and not perfect. And so a lot of that's handheld, it's multi-camera, it's letting the actors dance in the scene and not be too meticulous about changing the lighting between setups. So it's just more, we kind of lit every scene like a stage, so they can kind of run around and we could just have fun. And I think that style definitely contributes to the feeling that you get watching the movie.
There's the a moment where we have the strangers arrive on scene at the cabin. We have this spell book and everything, or book of demons, encyclopedia of demons, which oddly enough I have different kind of encyclopedia of demons within reach. And as far as creation of that kind of prop, it looks like something that feels real that I want to page through. So does that exist somewhere? How much detail did you go into? What's in that book?
Yeah, I mean, we got it right over here. You can go get it right
Yeah.
now.
I love this interview because you got spell books, you got a Bigfoot suit. I mean,
We have all the props ready.
within reach of me from a different part of my job, I've got a recent Bigfoot cast.
Oh, let's go.
supposedly-
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, this came from Pennsylvania and a recent investigation there. So like,
Yeah.
I love when we're combining different things here. So yeah, the book.
So
Show and tell.
here's the book.
Yes. Ariel Kaplan is the one who is the person who made this. She's fantastic props per individual. And here's the front. Now, I have to flip to select pages for you because as with every independent film shoot, we were on a bit of a time crunch.
Right.
Now, on those pages, though, it really is quite beautiful. So this is all hand done. You may see this guy show up in the movie. I'm not sure.
Yeah, this is lovely.
Yeah, it's cool stuff. And this was like never even shown in the movie. She did a lot of look, the whole cast and crew just got into this thing in a way that we could never have expected. And the cool thing is like, so this right here you don't see in the movie. There's like an eye right there. You got all sorts of demonic imagery. Some of it does actually tie into what's going on in the film. I believe this is certain 7 steps that take place. But what's so crazy is not only do we have this as like a fun thing, we did scenes where we just roll and characters would flip through the thing. And then they're like improving around trying to understand what's going on and looking at this art that this person just made over there. And they'd say some of the funniest shit, like because we have some of the characters are really like silly in the movie, right?
Yeah.
But they're terrified for their lives, so they're trying to read like, is that an eye? Is that a crown? He's like freaking out. He doesn't even know what it means. And I guess it's like a cool creative explosion where you have someone over there whip up a prop that looks so cool, and then a comedian person over here just starts riffing on it.
Uh, and I hit play on the screener link
Yeah, yeah.
literally right after RSVPing to a an anniversary screening of This Is Spinal Tap. So I was already kind of in that headspace. So I loved that. The
Yeah,
and then it made me think what the character Chase, played by Brennan, right? Like
yeah.
uh, the unearned confidence that this guy has, that I'm thinking this would be a person that would find a book of demons and think, oh, I entirely know what's going on here, and I can walk my way through both demons and cryptozoology.
Yeah,
Yes.
totally. He's that's the so Brennan, that's his charm. He can play a character that you by all means would just not like if you probably met them in person, but they're fascinating to watch on screen and there's something that makes you want to root for them in some way.
And David, how much time did you spend in the Bigfoot suit?
On set, zero actually. So there were actually four people in the Bigfoot suit total on that set. There was a Nate who plays Bigfoot, Nate Delormier, Christian Chan who played someone playing someone in the Bigfoot's playing Bigfoot, and then our stunt guy Evan Henderson,
Hmm.
and then Jake even hopped in
Yeah,
it
you
for
hopped in
for
it
a
too.
scene.
Oh yeah, my
Do,
hands.
Rounds.
You
Yeah,
know,
my
so
hands.
everybody, it's been shared around, and then after the fact, now that we've been marketing, I've been in this thing
He's been in.
countless times.
We
But
did a screening on Monday and he was in the thing. That's how we do it.
How many variations of this Bigfoot suit are there? The good one and then the better one, or just the one?
Just the one,
just the
man.
one.
The
It has any secrets.
and how much of this Patterson Project did you guys write out, the actual movie? Because
Oh yeah.
it feels like the core of a true found footage film that I'm like, oh, I kind of want to watch that. Maybe in a better director's hands, but I kind of want to watch that.
I think that's literally a line in the action, in the direction in the script. We're like,
Yeah.
this kind of maybe feels like a movie someone actually might want to
Well,
watch,
yeah,
which is
yeah.
crazy. I'm glad you felt that way.
I think Brennan wrote the actual script for it. I think he wrote a 40-page script, which by the way, you could tease that out into a movie. We wrote specific scenes that we knew we wanted to riff on, and you see those feature in the movie. But then he went and wrote a whole script and sent it to the whole cast and crew, and it's hilarious.
And the marketing team, there's the website and the hotline,
Mm.
and very Blair Witchy of you guys to create this. Was that all of your marketing team? Was that something that, as you're putting this movie together, like we need to have this as well? What's the story behind that?
Yeah, it felt like because it's so Blair Witch centric, but also kind of has like a little twist on it. We wanted to do a marketing campaign that you could recognize as being an ode to Blair Witch, but then there's some little silly jokes in there as well. It's like, okay, clearly they're not really taking this too seriously.
There's the radio silence has a love, a tendency, a passion even for exploding bodies. And as I'm watching the film, I was thinking, how would you sum up the radio silence effect and the partnership there with this film?
Yeah, I mean, what do you think, Dave?
Uh, I think you're totally spot on. There may be a surprise in the movie. It comes at a place I feel like you would never expect this surprise to come, which is really exciting. Yeah, they've been really good mentors because I grew up watching horror movies. VHS was like one of my
Mhm.
first like my ins to this like whole genre and everything. So I've always looked up to them, and yeah, they were just really. I think we resonated with like kind of their sensibilities as well. Just like kind of like let's make something fun, let's make something spooky, silly. Um, and yeah, they got on, they helped us out with some VFX stuff, which was really nice. That's the
Yeah.
point I was gonna
I,
get to.
I,
This
and I,
surprise.
I guess to kind of add on to that before we wrap up is just this feeling of when you're a creator and you're doing something that is fresh, is interesting and new. And let's face it, we live in a world where people say they want something new and fresh, but they don't always. They want to be fresh after someone else has done it first. Just that feeling of interacting with someone, working with someone that's like, yeah, I get what you're doing here. I see what you're doing and I'm on board with it. Talk about that feeling of like, collaborating with someone that's like, okay, yeah, we're fucking on board. We get it.
Yeah, that was a crazy one too, because they actually, so we had made the movie, and we got them a rough cut of the movie. That's how they first came on as executive producers. So it really was that sort of thing where we just went out to the wilderness and made this movie. And when we got to them, kind of through happenstance, to have it resonate with them so clearly and know where they're at now, having, Scream, revitalized the Scream franchise, all the stuff, all the great movies that they've made, all the big studio movies they've made. And for them to, there's little moments they picked out, like there's a moment where two characters set up lunch tables in the middle of an extremely chaotic day. And Tyler said, I know that feeling. I know
Yeah.
exactly what that feels like. I don't know. It felt, yeah, it felt really, uh,
Refreshing.
yeah, refreshing and also like cathartic, I guess, to see somebody who's a little we feel is on the other side of it a little bit and have them look at our little movie about our experiences and say, this is cool. That meant a
Yeah.
lot to us.
Finally, I know we're out of time. I'm going to sneak in one here. But you guys, if you're operating in a world where Bigfoot is out there, demons are out there, who is going to fare better in which situation? Who is going to do better against the demons versus the Bigfoot versus, how are you going to operate in these worlds? Take it on down the line.
Uh, I'm gonna see if I can make them laugh, befriend them, and join the crew. Join the cause.
Are you going to try to recruit the Bigfoot or the demon? I mean, you've got the suit, and
I'm
presumably you have the walk.
I'm gonna get in with the big feet.
Big
They're
feet.
my,
Okay.
they're my people.
Well, you know the lingo, the plural
I
lingo
do.
of it. All right.
Yeah.
And Max?
Myself, I will probably I'm stealing him a little bit too. I'm just gonna look to this guy. I feel like I'm just gonna skip over him. I'm gonna die early. But I will try to conglomerate myself to Jake because I feel like
Well, I don't know.
you're gonna gamify this thing,
I'm
dude.
gonna gamify. I'm gonna pull up my camera. I'm gonna film it, and then I'm gonna stand there, and then probably drop my camera and run away.
I feel like 90% of the games you play are around this premise though, where it's like
Hmm.
some sort of survival thing. You just got to figure out what the thing is,
Hmm.
Yeah,
and then
don't
it's just grind. You just got to grind it out.
The grind. Sure, let's do
just
that.
don't drop the camera, man. That's like that's the
Right.
rookie move.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I know we're out of time. Again, I really just enjoyed this because it did feel fresh and it felt like something that I was watching something new unfold, and I appreciate that. So, best of luck with everything, and I look forward to other people seeing it out there. And again, hard interview because I don't want to say anything about this film. I just want people to go see it.
Well, thank you, Aaron.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely wonderful talking with you.
Thanks,
Thank you so much.
guys. Talk soon. Bye.
Catch you later.
And that was Max, Jacob, David, filmmakers behind found footage of making of the Patterson Project. That's in theaters June 20th and digitally on June 24th. And the film, which is a mockumentary, a found footage horror film, a mockumentary about the making of a found footage horror film about Bigfoot, which is also involving sinister forces, potentially demons. It's a lot. It's a lot happening, and yet it somehow works. And it was produced by Radio Silence, the filmmaking group behind Ready or Not, Scream, Scream 6, and Abigail. I'm telling you, check it out. It's different, fresh. I'm into it. So look into it. Found footage making the Patterson Project. All right, this has been Talking Strange. I'm Aaron Sagers. Until next time, be kind, stay spooky, and keep it weird.